There is something happening inside millions of people right now. Something quiet. Something most of them have never been told about. They notice it in small ways at first. A little more difficulty following conversations. A subtle fog that sits behind their eyes in the afternoon. A sense that the world around them sounds just slightly off. They assume it is stress, or age, or just a bad week. But what if it is none of those things alone? What if all of those symptoms are connected through a mechanism that most people have never heard explained? What you are about to learn may completely change the way you think about your hearing, your brain, and the way your nervous system handles the modern world. Most people think of hearing as a simple function. Sound enters the ear. The brain processes it. That is the entire story, or so they believe. But researchers have been uncovering something far more complex, something that connects the inner ear to stress hormones, to cognitive clarity, to the very stability of your nervous system. And once you understand this connection, many things that seemed unrelated will suddenly start to make sense. Let us start with stress, not the obvious kind, the kind that keeps you up at night before a big meeting. We are talking about the slow, invisible kind. The chronic background pressure that has become so normal for most people that they no longer even notice it. This kind of stress does not just affect your mood. It triggers a cascade of biological events that reach deep into the body, including, as emerging science now suggests, into the delicate structures of the inner ear, the cochlea, the spiral-shaped organ, responsible for translating sound vibrations into nerve signals. This is extraordinarily sensitive to changes in circulation and oxygenation. When chronic stress constricts blood vessels and raises cortisol levels over long periods, that sensitivity becomes a vulnerability. The tiny hair cells lining the cochlea, which do not regenerate once damaged, may begin to lose their precision. And when they do, the signals sent to the auditory cortex become less clear, less consistent, less sharp. But here is where it gets interesting. The auditory cortex does not just receive sound. It works in close communication with other brain regions, including those responsible for memory, attention, and cognitive processing. When the incoming auditory signal becomes noisy or degraded, the brain has to work harder just to interpret what it is hearing. That extra cognitive load does not stay isolated. It bleeds into concentration, into mental energy, into the kind of clarity that lets you think, focus, and feel present. This is why some researchers now believe there may be a genuine link between declining auditory sharpness and the experience commonly described as brain fog. Not because hearing and thinking are the same thing, but because they share neurological resources, and when one is under strain, the other often pays the price. By the way, if you are watching this right now and thinking of someone in your life who has dealt with this, maybe a parent, a partner, or even yourself, leave a comment below and tell me where you are watching from. I would genuinely like to know how far this conversation is reaching. Now, what most people do not realize is that oxidative stress plays a significant role in this entire process. Free radicals, unstable molecules generated by inflammation, noise exposure, poor sleep, and chronic tension accumulate in the tissues of the inner ear over time. This oxidative pressure is not dramatic. It does not announce itself. It works silently, gradually, wearing down the cellular environment that the auditory system depends on. And because it happens slowly, most people do not connect the dots until the effects have already built up over years. This is the hidden truth that most conversations about hearing completely miss. It is not just about volume. It is not just about earphones being too loud or spending time near noisy machinery. The threat is subtler. It lives inside the biology of stress, aging, and cellular burden. And it has been quietly ignored for too long. Modern life makes this worse in ways we rarely stop to consider. We are surrounded by low-level noise that the nervous system has to constantly process and filter. Traffic, notifications, background conversations in open spaces. The auditory system never fully rests. And when you layer chronic stress, nutritional gaps, and oxidative accumulation on top of that relentless sensory input. The system does not always cope as well as we expect it to. The good news, and there is real good news here, is that understanding this mechanism is the first step toward doing something meaningful about it. Because once you see the connection between stress, oxidative burden, and auditory function, you can begin to approach it from multiple directions. Sleep quality matters, stress management matters, nutrition matters, and targeted nutritional support, designed specifically with the ear-brain relationship in mind, may offer a meaningful layer of additional support. That is exactly why, near the end of this video, I want to mention a natural support option that some people in our audience have been exploring. It is formulated to support hearing clarity, cognitive focus, nervous system calmness, and overall auditory wellness. It is not a treatment. It is not a cure. It is a thoughtful daily support tool built around the science of ear and brain wellness. If you are curious about it, the link is in the pinned first comment below this video. Take a look when you have a moment and make your own informed decision. What matters most right now is this. Hearing is not a passive function that simply fades with age and has nothing to do with how you feel, how clearly you think, or how well your brain processes the world around you. The connection is real. The science is there. And the path forward starts with paying attention, real attention, to signals that most people have been trained to dismiss. Your auditory system is telling you something. The question is whether you are ready to listen.